Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Exploring Brain and Mind. And my guest today is, I consider him an expert in mindfulness. His name is Craig Gilbert, and I've been following him for years on Facebook. Also because he has written poetry and books and things like that. And I'm delighted to have you here with me, Craig. Good morning.
Oh, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Craig, how did you get into mindfulness? I'm sure there's been some journey linked to that.
There certainly has, yes. Well, years and years ago, I used to work in IT. I was in an office working 9 to 5, 5 days a
Mm.
week, what most people end up doing. And I got quite ill after a while. I got sort of, I was suffering with anxiety and depression
Mm.
for quite a few years, and I was really struggling in my job, just the stresses of it, the deadlines that you had to meet, sort of relearning computer stuff. Computing always advances at a fast pace. So had to keep going on training courses and things like this to keep up with the latest technology and all this sort of thing as part of the job. So this began to kind of take a bit of a toll on me. So as I say, was quite stressed. I was quite anxious. And basically what happened was I was at my wife's sister's house and she
Mm.
happened to have a book on mindfulness.
Mhm.
And I just picked it up. We were on holiday down there, and I just picked it up and started sort of flicking through the book, and it just resonated so deeply with me, what the practice was and what it can do for you. And so that was the beginning, really, of me finding out about mindfulness. So I
Mhm.
just thought, well, for my own health, this feels like a good way to go, to actually explore it a bit more. So I began sort of reading more about it and studying it, and then ended up doing courses on it. And to say it sort of transformed my life is not an exaggeration. It has completely transformed my life. It's really helped with things like anxiety, and depression is non-existent now through the practice of mindfulness. So it was really, I got into it through my own health because my own health was really struggling at a point in time. And so I got into it to kind of try and help myself. But it's funny, as the journey goes on, you end up sort of helping others.
Mm.
It's less about helping myself and more about helping others, and that's just part of the journey. So yeah. So does that answer your question on where
Yeah,
it's
that's
come from?
it has been a journey, and you're it's interesting that you're talking about IT because I was interviewed by an IT professional on on her podcast that she is hoping to launch very soon. And she was mentioning the stress levels and the pressure in these jobs is enormous. And it's no surprise that people get ill, with mental health, but also physical health, because our mental health and physical health are intrinsically connected, aren't they? Because if one side's not working, it affects the other side.
Oh, definitely, yes.
So it's no surprise that so many in IT are struggling. And yeah, what book was it that you were reading? Just a curiosity.
Yeah, it was a book by a woman called Pema Chödrön,
Hmm.
who's a Buddhist person. And so it was a kind of Buddhism book, but it was called Comfortable with Uncertainty, was the name of the book. Being comfortable with uncertainty.
Mm.
So it really piqued my interest. I mean, it didn't even have the word mindfulness in it
Mm.
particularly. But basically, she was talking about slowing down and coming out of our distracted mind, that causes a lot of our problems, especially in sort of busy jobs or busy environments,
Mm.
we can lose our focus, we can lose our awareness, and then that can cause us to suffer more as a result because we're just rushing about in our mind. We're not kind of enjoying life, if you like. We're kind of going from one thing to the next, rushing in our life. So it really kind of resonated. And yeah, so that was the book. Mhm.
That's interesting that it was a Buddhist book, because my own mindfulness experiences and links started at the Buddhist center in Glasgow when I lived in Scotland. So
Okay, yes.
I went there a few times, and I did what was the one called? Is it Metta Bhavan or something like that? Loving kindness meditation,
Oh,
and another
yes.
one. I can't remember what the other one was, but those two meditations were kind of the first introduction into it.
Yep.
Then I got to do a course in mindfulness, but it was linked a little bit to pain control as well. Not that I had any
Okay.
pain, but there was a bit of yoga in it, a very tiny bit of yoga in it as well, because for some exercises we had to lie down, and it was very interesting. But I took to it, and then I read one of the book that saved me years ago was Dalai Lama's The Art of Happiness,
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
because that got me out of some dark spot. And I read more of his work, and some of the what I didn't understand initially was the thing about emptiness.
Yes. Uh-huh.
But when I read his work, it clicked on me, what he was talking about. So
Yes.
yeah. So so I from doing a bit of research, I know mindfulness has a long history.
It certainly does.
So what are you more familiar with the Indian kind of foundation, or not foundations, but origins of it?
Well,
What can you
yeah,
tell us about that?
sure. I mean, mindfulness has been around for, well, thousands of years, you could say.
Mm,
It originated, I think, in India, and Tibet and places like that, places
mm,
where the Dalai Lama is. Um, and it wasn't necessarily called mindfulness back then. It was more kind of Buddhism, Zen traditions, very spiritual practices, but rooted in basically being present, being in the moment.
mm,
So there's many practices about being in the moment, and that's kind of where it originated from. And it was what basically drew me to it. There was a Buddhist monk called Thich Nhat Hanh, who you may have heard of,
yeah.
who kind of brought mindfulness across from Vietnam and from the East to the
Hmm.
West. So he was, he's sometimes labeled as the father of mindfulness, in recent times,
Hmm.
because he established a monastery just for mindfulness teachings. So he brought a lot of the ancient sort of Buddhism teachings into the West. And these practices became some of the courses that we go on in the UK. Things like there's mindfulness-based stress reduction, for example, which
Mm,
was founded by a guy called John Kabat-Zinn.
mm,
But a lot of the teachings and things that are in there are relevant to what Thich Nhat Hanh also taught in his monastery in Plum Village in France. So yeah, it's mindfulness is pulling on thousands of years of wisdom and history from Zen masters, you could say, just kind of carrying on the lineage as time goes on. So I think it's been kind of rebranded in the West as mindfulness because that's more acceptable for people. It's kind of like a way in to this more spiritual, like as you were saying, the emptiness is kind of the crux of the whole thing.
Mm.
But for a lot of people, the concept of emptiness is very woo-woo and very strange. So using mindfulness, which is a very it makes sense, it's a very easy thing to begin to learn, because it's I'm just going to be focusing on my moment, focusing on the surroundings. I could be going for a mindful walk, for example, and I'm looking at trees, or I'm looking at the clouds in the sky. That's becoming present, but it's also becoming empty. But that's a lot of that can be quite difficult for beginners. So yeah, so it's come from the East. It's been around for many years, way before I was born. um, and it just feels a privilege to be able to tap into some of that wisdom. But certainly Thich Nhat Hanh was one of the forerunners in bringing it over to the UK and the US and all these places.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, I've heard of him as well. I think I've got one or two books of his in my bookshelf
Mm.
still.
Very, very good stuff. Yeah.
And it's more and more research coming out as well on the effectiveness of mindfulness on with regards to anxiety, depression, with regards to mental health, isn't it? Isn't that amazing?
Very much so. Yeah, there's more and more talk about it now, and it's kind of tying in with new science as well. Things like quantum physics. There's a link to what scientists are discovering about how reality works to awareness and consciousness, which is kind of the essence of mindfulness. So yeah, it's fascinating times we're living in.
It's interesting though how science, and I'm a bit with regards to science, I'm all for science and for explorations, but science is not one fixed point. It's like more like exploring
Yes.
things. And with some things, I'm actually quite happy if science cannot explain it, because I keep saying there are things that can't quite be explained with science yet. And with some things, I'm quite happy that this is the case.
Yes, indeed. Keep the
But it's
mystery.
but with regards to health and things, of course, science has to play a role in that nowadays. And it's good that and I see the Eastern medicine and wisdom. I see a lot more sense in it than I see in some of the what the West has kind of done. And
Yeah,
I'm glad to see that some of that is coming into the West, is kind of getting hold, and people are
yes.
taking to it.
Yes, I think so too. Certainly see more holistic sort of therapies and things coming in, which can be very, very helpful.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. We need some of that. We need more of that.
Yes, yes, indeed.
And so what is your, do you have a certain direction or certain area of the practices that you are focusing? I'm thinking of, is it more the India related one? Is it more the Zen related one? Is it a mix of different practices that you use or you teach?
Yes, I tend to adopt more of a Zen approach. So I use kind of a lot of the Zen traditions, the sort of Thich Nhat Hanh practices. But I've also kind of I'm a bit of a maverick, and I kind of do mindfulness my own way. So I draw upon, obviously the ancient wisdoms. They're true, whatever which way you present mindfulness. But I sometimes kind of deviate from the coursework that I did. I've in the past I've kind of drawn these diagrams,
Mm.
um, not particularly artistic, just kind of like stick figures and like flow charts. I suppose I'm using my IT background in a
Mm-hmm.
way to kind of blend learning with diagrams and things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I kind of use I tweak it and use my own way to share mindfulness, but it is in essence the same practice, regardless of which avenue you take to share it with people. But yes, it's more of the Zen approach is what I use. There's many different ways of practicing mindfulness, but I also relate it to everyday life, because I think sometimes you can go on a retreat, a Zen retreat or a Buddhist retreat, and they teach you all the same things. But sometimes I think for people in their daily life, it's useful to bring examples and
Mm.
to kind of share how it can help you with everyday things, like even just going shopping or getting a bus or cleaning your teeth. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you can apply Zen to anything that's happening in your life, and then I think that makes it more approachable and more available for people. You don't have to be a Buddhist to, for example, to practice mindfulness. You know,
Mm.
and we
Yeah.
are in at some level we are all being mindful because we have an awareness of where we are, what we're doing, kind of thing. It's just kind of building on that awareness so that it's a bit more focused, a bit more, you're more present with yourself. So yeah, so I use everyday situations, but always come back to the wisdom of the Zen teachings because that's kind of the foundation for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah, definitely. With regards to the practices, can you give people some examples that they could try and do and apply in everyday life?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the main practices is to focus on breathing. So it's very good when you're feeling uncomfortable or emotional in any way. So, for example, if you're, I mean, I give examples of being at a bus stop waiting for a bus, and there's anxiety may manifest because the bus is late, or you know, you're needing to get to an appointment, and you're
Mm.
like, oh, when's the bus coming? You know, you're starting to get a little bit nervous, I suppose. So in that instance, you can practice your breathing. You focus on your breath. So you could be stood at the bus stop and you're just feeling your breath, the in breath and the out breath. And it just for those moments, it interrupts your thinking, the worry about the bus. And you're present, you become present at the bus stop. And that can help to settle your nervousness, calm your emotion. So there's a very simple practice of like wherever you go in your daily life, if something is bothering you, you start getting nervous or you get agitated or you get annoyed, come back to your breath. That's the first rule, really. Come back to your
Mhm.
breath because your breath is always here in the present moment, in the here and now. So being aware of your breath puts you back in the moment. It stops you thinking about the future or the past, which is where most of our suffering and problems come from.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can't actually control, for example, in that situation, when the bus arrives. There's nothing you can actually do to solve that issue other than how you respond to it. So if you're responding to it all edgy, that's no good for you or your body or the whole situation. But if you're breathing, you can calm yourself down. It kind of helps with the situation and helps with your health and your body as well. So coming back to your breath, that's the first important practice.
Mm.
But then mindfulness itself is not necessarily focusing on the breath, it's focusing on the task in front of you. So you can mindfully drink a cup of tea, for example. Um, and so drinking your cup of tea is kind of you're holding the mug of the tea. So you're feeling the heat of the mug of tea in your fingers. You may be looking at the tea, you're smelling the tea, and you're tasting the tea. And while you're with the tea, it's kind of like a Zen moment where you're present with your tea.
Mhm.
You're not thinking about the past or the future, which is what causes us our issues. So, for example, it can slow us down. You know, if you've rushed all day, having a mindful cup of tea is very useful because it allows your mind to settle into the moment, and allows you to calm, and it allows you to enjoy your tea. Because often we're rushing about. We could be drinking tea while we're walking or driving or
Mm.
something, and we're not really tasting our tea. You know, we're thinking about other things.
Yeah.
So yeah, practice drinking your tea mindfully. You can clean your teeth mindfully. Mindful walking is a brilliant practice that I always do. So if you're going from A to B, even in the house, you can be mindful of your feet, your footsteps on the carpet or the laminate flooring. You might hear the sound of your footsteps. You can breathe while you walk. All of this is taking you away from your thinking mind and the rushing mind that has to rush. And it's like, oh, I must be over here and I must be over there. And that the rushing can generate anxiety and nervous energy, you see. So bringing yourself back to the moment with these simple practices of just feeling your feet on the ground, you know,
Mm.
mindfully walking, you know, if you're walking outside in nature, then taking time to look at trees, to look at wildlife, to smell flowers, you know, very, very simple. We can all do those things. It's just having that kind of awareness to do it, because it slows you down and it helps to settle your emotions. So there's a few very simple practices that you can try. It's trying to incorporate it into your daily life. It's noticing when you are rushing about and when you're feeling tense. You can sit with your body, you know, and breathe with the tensions. It's almost like, you know, when I was in IT, I used to be at a computer for 7, 8 hours a day. Now, if I wasn't mindful, by the time I'd done that 8 hours, I'd have been starving hungry. I'd have had achy shoulders and neck because of my position of sitting,
Mm. Yeah.
sore legs, etc. So mindfulness is noticing moment by moment. It's like, oh gosh, I'm noticing my shoulders are getting a bit tight, or maybe I can loosen those, or I'm noticing I haven't eaten. You know, my tummy's rumbling. Maybe I need to go and have a break and get some food. You know, it's kind of self care moment by moment, if that makes sense to you,
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
because we can often just get completely engrossed in our mind. And before we know it, the day's over. And we haven't really been conscious of how that day's gone. We've kind of been in our head interpreting it
Mm.
in a way. And a lot of these interpretations can be very judgmental. We have a kind of negative bias in our mind.
Yeah.
So our mind is always looking for problems or looking for the safest route. Um, Whereas life isn't really like that. Life is not really opinions. It's more, it just comes and flows naturally. So it's trying to come away from that judgmental mind. Practicing non-judgment is another big practice. You know, noticing if you're judging the bus being late and letting it go. Noticing that you have been at a desk for an hour and not beating yourself up because you've forgotten to do something. You know,
Mm.
it's giving yourself kindness as well.
Yeah, this is all very helpful. I kind of can confirm that because I'm using a lot of the what you were talking about, of the practices. You know, when I'm going for a walk, I'm working hard not to sit at my desk for the whole day, but go out for, I've got a park 5 minutes away. So I walk down the road, go around the park and look at the trees, especially this time of year. You've got all the blossoms coming up on the trees, or the new leaves, or the
Beautiful.
daffodils. And then you hear the birds as well, the different bird sounds, which is so lovely, especially like in spring when they're all everything's nature's awakening from the colder days, and it's all
Yes. Ah.
the grass is getting green, and it's just lovely. I can't wait for the rhododendrons to come up because we've got a few in the park there.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, it's a lovely time, and it's that sort of thing is like you're listening to birds, you're looking at the flowers, you're seeing the movement of the flow of seasons.
Hmm.
It takes you away from your thinking mind that has to fix things, solve things, get moody
Yeah.
about things, you know. It takes you away from that into a different perspective, a different place, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like to go inside of you rather than, yeah, you've been aware of everything that's outside, but sometimes what I do as well when I don't know, I have moments and I just feel like, okay, I've got to stop. And then I close my eyes and I go straight inside to check what's going on inside of me,
Aha.
but also to kind of totally switch off. I can switch off when I close my eyes and I switch off, and I might still be aware of any kind of noises around me, but I'm not here. I'm somewhere else. I'm
Yep. Yep.
inside. I'm inside. I'm checking in with myself. I think
Yes.
that's a good way to stop yourself as well from ruminations, from especially when something's going around your head all the time, and you just
Yes. Yes.
pause, sit, breathe, sometimes deep breaths, yeah, and
Yep.
close your eyes, check in with yourself. That's something I found very helpful. Or what people may call box breathing.
Yes.
You've got
That's
like
one.
inhale for a certain number, you count to, like, for example, you inhale for 4, you hold for 4, you exhale for 4, and you hold again for 4.
Yes.
It's
Yes. That's
it's
right.
I love that as well. I find that very helpful.
And that's it. It is that looking inward. You've described it perfectly. Looking inward is you're not trying to fix the external world, you're just noticing your reaction to it.
Yeah.
So you go inward and you're like, ah, you have a curiosity. It's
Mm,
like, oh, I'm agitated. That's interesting. Or I'm anxious. That's interesting. Or I'm feeling really annoyed. Oh, that's very interesting. Let me breathe for a minute. Let me come back to myself. Exactly as you say. You could do your box breathing. You can breathe. You come back in, and you're like, oh, I'm arriving back home. That's kind of how I like to call it, and that's what Thich
yeah.
Nhat Hanh does as well. It's
Hmm.
like you're arriving home in the here and the now, in this moment. And in this moment, nothing is actually happening.
Mm,
There is just the moment. There is breath happening. There is emotions happening, maybe. There's feelings, maybe. There's sounds, maybe. But by pausing and stopping, as you've just described, it just gives a chance to come away from the thinking mind and just into the flow of what's happening in each moment. And then noticing that in each moment, everything is changing and shifting. The sounds will come and go, your emotions will come and go. You just let them do their thing.
yeah.
They're here for a
Yeah.
short while, but if you're aware of them, they ease a lot faster than if you were thinking about them, you see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when what you said about not judging, it's definitely important as well, because just accept it, the emotion, for example, accept the emotion that it's there,
Yeah.
and it's fine. You don't have to react to it. Just
Exactly.
I practice like mindfulness with reading posts and things on social media as well, which is one thing is,
Yes.
excuse me, one thing is you see a post and it kind of irritates you, and
Yes.
it's like a lot of people, they just jump in and react and post something and post a comment to let
Yeah.
their kind of emotion out, what they think, what they feel. What I do is I look at it. Oh, this irritates me. Hang on a minute. And it may be a strong emotion. But if it's a very strong emotion, what I do is I may write a post, but then I pause and then I delete it.
Yes, very mindful approach. I like it.
And or sometimes it's just, if it's something else, it could be, oh, I just scroll on. It's not worth reacting,
Yeah,
just keep going. I think that are very that can be very useful approaches
very much
socially.
so. Very much so.
And it's all part of self-awareness, isn't it? And because I do emotional intelligence work as well, I've trained in that, and self-awareness is the foundation of it all. I keep
Yes,
comparing it to the foundation of a house. Every house needs a foundation, and the foundation of emotional intelligence to build on is your self-awareness.
absolutely. I would endorse that fully. It's all about awareness. And it's good to notice like how you react to a post on social media and things like that. And just to, as you say, you take a moment to challenge in a way the immediate response, because the immediate response is a subconscious response. Like you get annoyed very quickly. You don't choose to get annoyed.
Mm,
So it's a subconscious response to become annoyed at something. And the annoyance is actually not necessarily about the post. The post has just triggered it, that's already there. Your annoyance
mm,
is already in you, because you've been annoyed before. That annoyance has been there many times before, and this is just the latest in a line of annoyances that's come up. So if you catch that annoyance, instead of just, as you say, most people just type and I'm annoyed, they're not really addressing the annoyance that's already in them. They're just feeding it and making themselves more annoyed, so that later on they'll see another post and they'll get annoyed at it again because they're
mm,
feeding the annoyance. But when you catch your annoyance in mindfulness, you have a chance of changing how you respond. And what you've described is perfect, because you're like, oh, maybe I won't say what I think initially. If I sit and look deeply at my annoyance, I realize the annoyance isn't about this post. So why am I getting annoyed with this post? And you start to learn a bit more about yourself. I suppose you get an understanding of where you're at, and where things sit with you. And then you tend to respond then with a more loving way, a heart-led way, as opposed to a subconscious kind of fear way, if you like. Annoyance is a kind of type of fear, a bit like anxiety.
yeah.
So yeah, catching these things is mindfulness and is a practice. This non-judgment, as we were saying, it's a real practice to practice non-judging, because if you judge, there's an emotion behind the judgment.
Mm.
So instead of judging, it's better to look inwards. What is the emotion then?
Mm-hmm,
Am I
mm-hmm.
annoyed? Am I anxious? Am I angry? What is it? Oh well, if I'm those things, then I could do with sitting somewhere with a mindful cup of tea and allowing this to settle. Breathe with it. I don't want to feed it anymore, because then my future will just be the same. So I want to transform these emotions. I'll sit with them, and they become calm. You find you get calmer and more patient and more loving as
Mm.
practice goes on. So I've certainly discovered that in my 12 years of mindfulness practice. That I used to start off, I was really annoyed, really angry, really bothered, really anxious. And every
Mm.
time I caught those moments, and breathed with them and settled myself, they became less and less and less over time. Now, I mean, anger doesn't really surface anymore. There's the odd annoyance, the odd nervousness, but it doesn't really surface anymore, because I've found a way to cope with it, I suppose.
Mm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Definitely makes sense. Yeah, the important things as well. You can, and that would be self-management side of emotional intelligence too. You can
Mhm.
control, you can be in control of your emotions.
Yes, yes. But as you
Uh,
say, the first step is to be aware
yeah,
that the emotions are there and to
yeah,
not judge the emotions either. It's okay to have anxiety and to have annoyance. You know, they're giving you a gift in some ways. But it's not to sort of dwell on the thoughts of it, which would make it worse, is to be with the feeling of it, which makes
mm,
it ease. Mm,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No, I've found helpful as well to know and understand how the brain works. You know how the amygdala nowadays can pick up the smallest things and shout danger, danger, even though it
Yes.
isn't a danger, and to kind of to understand. Oh yeah, it's just a normal mechanism. It's just oversensitive. You don't need to shout danger right now. It's not a danger. I'm just trying something new. Calm down. You know, it's having these internal dialogues with your brain to calm it down. That's sometimes quite useful as well
Yeah.
when
I
it's
think,
playing up and shouting danger. It's just because I'm going to a new place. I'm trying a new thing. And the brain loves doing new things. It needs to do new things. It needs to learn new things to keep active. You know, but it still shouts danger. The old mechanism still kicks in. You need to learn to talk to it, calm it down. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You know, you need to work through that. It's not to give in to the shouting of danger, but to work through it, to be nice, to be kind to your brain and tell it it's fine, it's good. Keep going. We need to keep going because you need to learn this.
yeah, absolutely, 100%. You know, it is to kind of be curious about the response and
Mm.
to not necessarily just go with the immediate response, but to really sort of look at it from different angles. You know, as you say, sort of, you know, why am I worrying about this? Do I need to worry about this? You know, this is a new experience. Yeah, it's okay to be anxious. Hello, anxious. Hello, anxiety, my old friend, you're here. But you're recognizing it's here. Um,
Mm.
and that can help you because then you have an awareness of, well, I can calm this, you know, I can breathe with this. I can get through. As you say, I think the word is through. You go through the emotion, not you're not beholden to it. You see it and you're like, oh, you're here. It's okay. Let's walk together. I'll walk down to this new path with my anxiety, but I'm with you. You know, it's like that walking is not the anxious part of you. You know, there's another side to you that sees the anxiety.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you feel or think about what do you think about the link mindfulness and meditation? Sometimes people put it in one pot, but it is really different, isn't it?
Well,
In a,
meditation
in a way.
kind of conjures up an image of sitting cross-legged on a cushion. Um, and so you have what's called formal meditation where you do that. You know, you go and sit a bit like yoga. You know, it's like you go to a
Mm.
meditation class, and so you sit and you do meditation. And then when you're done, that's the meditation over. Um, but mindfulness is something that you take with you every day. So it's kind of like meditating on the moment that you're in. So mindfulness is meditation, really. It's awareness. You could say mindfulness is synonymous with awareness,
Yeah.
and meditation is also synonymous with awareness. It's just the method that you're using to get to awareness. So, meditation, the formal aspect of meditation is I'm choosing to sit and do a sitting meditation or a sound meditation. You know, you might listen to guided meditations which have sound or a person talking or visualization or something. So, there's different types of meditation. But you formally decided to do that for a period of time, a bit like you formally decide to do exercise or you formally decide to have some food, you know. Whereas awareness and mindfulness is with you all the time. And so it's kind of remembering, I suppose, to go back to the awareness that's already here. Um, so you're walking, for example, and if you're thinking about other things, then your awareness isn't with you with the walk. So mindfulness is like, oh, I'm not with my walk. Let's come back to the walk. Come back to the footsteps, come back to the tree that I'm walking by, come back to the sound of the bird I'm hearing at this moment. Um, and then when you are back in the moment, you are meditating. So it's just a different avenue into meditation, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. I think that will hopefully give those people who may be listening and who may have tried meditating but are not kind of comfortable with sitting for a longer time and
Yep.
sitting still and with closed eyes and cross-legged or whichever way. I know there are people that are not comfortable with that, but it should give reassurance to them that mindfulness does not mean you have to sit down and do the formal meditation. So that you
Yes,
kind of
exactly that. Yeah.
start with small practices and kind of build up with that and to implement those practices into your daily life and into your being.
Exactly that. Yes. Yes. 100%. Yeah, it's a way in to meditation that doesn't involve all the formal stuff. We can meditate even just looking out of the window at clouds in the sky. That's a meditation.
Mm.
That's a cloud watching meditation. But you don't have to call it meditation. You're just looking at clouds.
Yeah, I try to find cloud faces. I'm always interested in
Oh
looking at the
yes,
clouds, and
I love that
I love to
myself.
find faces or animals or something, any kind of familiar shapes or anything interesting in the clouds.
That's brilliant. A beautiful practice.
Mm.
Cloud watching, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. So that's the
Anyway,
beauty of mindfulness. You can cloud watch, it's mindfulness. You can listen to birds, that's mindfulness. You can drink tea, that's mindfulness. You can have a mindful meal, mindfulness. You can
mm,
mindfully notice your posts on social media. It encapsulates absolutely every facet of life. You can be mindful to anything. Um, so yeah, in that way, it opens it up for people. It opens it up and makes it, as you say, a little bit safer and a little bit easier to access the present moment, as opposed to kind of formal meditation practices that can be very daunting for people. Um, no less the physicality of, as you say, sitting for a period of time can be quite difficult for people.
yeah. It's like if I think of some neurodiverse people, they might find that difficult, to sit still for a longer time.
Yes, yes.
And I mean, it's good that this, I don't know when it started with this term of neurodiverse. I've only came across it, was it last year or the year before?
Mm,
It's
mhm.
not been that long that the term has been around, has it?
No, a few years maybe. Yeah.
Mm.
Hmm.
But it's good that they found now a way to a term to describe or to a category. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
like being put in a box or anything like any category of thing. I just say I call myself weird, but I'm happy with that because I don't consider myself as normal. Normal is boring.
Yes. Yeah, I mean,
So yeah.
we label things, but underneath all the labels are feelings and humans.
Mm,
And it's a unique journey we're all on to kind of discover ourselves and to notice how we feel, what we think, what we're doing. So I like mindfulness because it's a universal approach. You can have neurodivergent people practicing mindfulness. You can have any type of person practicing it because we are it in a way. We have being with us. We can't. No, nobody cannot be.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
impossible.
yeah.
All we have to do is tune in to the being.
That's
Um,
it exactly. Yeah.
so yeah, I like that it's very it's kind of equality in a way. It's mindfulness is welcoming of any situation, any label, any person, which I think is why I really fell for it. Sort of really love it because it's very non-judgmental, you know, and it doesn't shut anything out or stop people from doing it. Yeah, but obviously certain people have it's easier for certain people to do it, and for others it's harder because it depends on how distracted their mind is or how their mind's been built up over years of what's happened in their life. So for some people, it can be very difficult to stay present. But everyone can feel a chair or look at a cloud. You know, even for a few seconds, it's helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's oh God, I've lost my thread now. I was going to say something. Oh God, I've lost it. Oh, it will come back. It will come back eventually
It
if it's
will.
important, or it comes back after we're finished. It's it's sometimes it's like, considering that we have like 60 to 70,000 thoughts coming through every day, you know, it's no wonder that sometimes it just comes rushing through just like that.
Absolutely.
So when you do your mindfulness work, do you work with individuals or more with groups? What's your setting? What's your
I do both. I do one-to-ones with people, with individuals. So, which is sort of looking at their life, looking at what's going on for them, and adopting a mindful approach to what they do in their life. So that's one aspect. But I also run groups. I do an online group every Monday, where it's an hour long. We meditate together, and I discuss different aspects of mindfulness. So that's something I do, and I also take people on mindful walks. So there's a group of us. It's quite a social thing,
Mhm.
but we have moments where I do my best to point out there's a tree, there's a cloud. You know, could you see the color of that flower? You know, it's that kind of thing to kind of just get people to engage with the moment they're in,
Mhm.
as opposed to um, chatting about all the problems that they have, you know. So yeah, so I use different methods, and since obviously when COVID struck, all my classes were face to face
Oh, yeah,
in
yeah.
rooms with people, and it all went online in lockdown. So I kind of established a chat room, and that's just carried on my Mondays. So I still do an online chat, which started because of COVID. But I'm now going back out as well,
That's lovely.
traveling about, running courses and things like this. So yeah.
That's great that you offer this. I think IT companies need to introduce something like workshops on stress reduction and mindfulness.
Oh
Um,
yes,
I
yeah.
think they're in really in need of that. I was thinking of when the lady was talking to me about this in her podcast. I was thinking of I should really approach IT companies and say like, you should really offer a bit of self-care knowledge to be brought to your staff in
Yeah.
stressful positions like yours. So I haven't done anything yet, but yeah, it's definitely, I think that there is potential. And if they do care about their staff, their workforce, I think they should offer something like that.
Yes, yes. I do. I have gone into organizations that have been open to mindfulness, and done mindfulness with staff, not necessarily just in an IT office, but
Mm,
in offices, you know,
yeah.
HR, admin, finance, you know, all these different departments. They can all be stressful.
Oh
Um,
yeah, finance, year end, audits,
oh,
legal
definitely,
legal profession. They've got trials to work on, or kind of any kind of civil cases, something like that. I used to train to be a judicial clerk in my early days after school in in Germany.
definitely. Okay.
So that can be Yeah. A
Yeah,
kind of bit of pressure as well, I'm sure, for the lawyers. I was at the court, but I wasn't at a kind of lawyer's office. But I think they have a lot of stress as well, especially if they work on
yeah.
like big criminal cases or something like that. Can't be easy.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone's got tricky jobs,
Mm,
some really when you're working a lot, your mind can get very busy very quickly and get distracted very quickly, and that's what kind of can cause the tensions and the stresses and the illnesses that sometimes we get, in our
mm,
bodies. So
yeah,
yeah, I mean, mindfulness. Obviously, I would want everybody in the whole world to do mindfulness. But, I can only work on myself and the people who come in touch with me, or I connect with through what the world decides. So yeah, but it's really growing. I mean, the internet's been an amazing tool because you can just Google mindfulness on YouTube or meditation on YouTube, and hundreds and hundreds of videos. You can see Thich Nhat Hanh giving his teachings and his lectures. It's like years ago you'd have had to journey to France or go visit India, to get
yeah,
these wisdoms, but they're all available. So I do see that more and more people are self-teaching themselves and using technology in order to help bring more mindfulness into the world. So I'm very hopeful. Mindfulness is becoming more and more a part of humans' society.
yeah,
We're all gradually getting more conscious, and that's got to be a good thing.
yeah, yeah. We need more of that in a world where we're constantly bombarded with negativity, with
Yes,
fear induction, attempted fear induction. Doesn't work with me that easy, I have to say.
yes, yes.
Because I I I think I stopped watching news completely when yeah, when we had the COVID years.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
completely stopped me. I'm avoiding them as it, only if I sit like at the hairdressers and I've got the radio on. Okay, I will listen to that.
Yep.
But I won't do it in my own place. There is no way that I will switch on a news program these days. But
Yes.
even with social media, it's like scroll on, scroll on. You don't have to really
No,
take part in all this.
it's obviously it's natural for us to want to know what's happening in the world, and so dipping in and out of things is a useful thing, but also noticing how you react to it. You know,
Mm,
because I think as you just said with COVID and that, I remember watching a lot of that and noticing the fear that was arising in my body when I was watching it. So you have a choice to kind of let go of continually feeding that fear
mm.
and negativity that seems to be in headlines. It's very drama.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
oh, look at this crazy thing that's happened. It's very judgmental words, and yeah, it's drama. We kind of thrive on drama a bit.
yeah, yeah. But the
But
things as well, with people need to learn how we're getting manipulated, and that's another thing I'm trying to do and bring out. You know,
yeah,
you need to be aware that these tactics are going, no matter if it's advertising, if
yeah,
it's politics, um, psychological strategies that they're using. There's I kind of got very early, I think after a few weeks when the COVID thing started, I was like, hang on a minute, they're doing this, they're doing that. That sounds familiar. That sounds familiar. Because I always had an interest in psychology and in then I trained in NLP years ago. That as well helped to understand quite a bit. And then doing the other training with how the brain works and how we like information processing in that, because they need to tailor the information in such a way that the brains easily take it in and repeat it and again, so
right.
that it festers in your brain, that you really start believing what they're telling you.
Yes, yes.
So it's so important for people to learn that it's not how, and especially as well, that there is not just this headline and it's just not just this one perspective. They
Yes.
interpret it in a way that you are meant to believe it and take it in and see it. But there
Yeah.
are many, many other ways of interpreting it, other perspectives.
Yeah. Very
And
much so.
I keep using the iceberg, the iceberg image, so that the surface is what you're meant to know, but there's so much
Very
underneath
much
that
underneath.
surface. So I'm one of those. I'm a rebel in that one. I'm not kind of going with the narrative. I always ask, my motto is question, research, investigate.
Yes.
That's my motto.
And yeah, there is always other sides to stories, and I think it's kind of having a self-awareness and a self-reliance that you don't have to believe all these things, and it's yeah, it's having that open-mindedness, curiosity, that kind of
Curiosity. Yeah.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
really
So
important, rather than just taking something at face value.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Right, we're slowly coming to the end of our podcast. So if people want to reach out to you, if they want to do a course with you, where can people find you? Or is there anything else that you want to say and to promote?
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I have a business. I live in Fife in Scotland. So my business is called Zen Life Fife. And I have a Facebook page that people can follow, facebook.com/, and I post stuff about mindfulness on there all the time, including my walking events, which tend to be local here in Fife. But also details of online things that I do. And I can also obviously do one-to-ones with people anywhere in the world. I can do it via email or online chat or whatever. So it is open to everybody. So a lot of my details are on there. I also have a YouTube channel, which again is it's called Zen Life Space, but it's Zen Life underscore Craig is how to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
So or you can search in the search bar for Craig Gilbert Zen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it will pop up. But I do videos. I try and do a video once every couple of weeks, a different meditation perhaps, or a talk on mindfulness. So that's freely available as well on the internet. I've also got a book about mindfulness called About Zen Mindfulness, which you can get from places like Amazon, but you can also get them direct from myself. So again, just by inquiring on my Facebook page or sending me a message, my YouTube channel has all the links.
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, you can get a book on mindfulness. So that's really all I wanted to say. I am available online for anybody, and if anybody needs has a question on mindfulness, they can always message me, and I would reply and give some guidance. Um,
That's that's brilliant. Yeah, I what I will do is as well. I will take take all the links and put them on in the show notes as well for, kind of,
thank you.
if I make them click, people like quick fixes, put the links in as a clickable way to get in touch.
Yes. Well,
So yeah, I'll put that
that's
in there in
wonderful.
the show notes, and yeah, people can then reach out to you.
That's great. Thank you so much.
And thank you for being a guest on my show. I very much appreciate it. It was lovely to have you, Craig.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, honestly. It's lovely to actually see you and speak with you after all these years.
After all these years, I know.
because I'm not even sure how we initially connected, but
I've because I got aware of your poetry on face I
okay.
think via Facebook, and then I did buy The Lemon, that book that you wrote,
That's
and I
right,
read
you did.
that,
Thank you,
and
gratitude.
and that's kind of how it started.
Yes,
And
yes.
I know it took a long time to kind of get to speak to you, but it was absolutely brilliant to have you on the show today.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Yeah, anytime. I'm happy to help as well with what you're up to. So, yeah, you're doing amazing stuff. So,
Thank you.
thank you very much.